Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Chase with Jace. I'm your host, Jace Lejeune, and we're going to try something different today. We usually have just our Player of the Week show when we have our high school football show on our Facebook page live, but it looks like this week we're trying something different with the Chase with Jace as well. I'm pretty excited to announce that all of our shows will be live in terms of a Chase with Jace and the Louisiana High School show, Bowling in the Boot show, will be on Facebook, X, and YouTube. And this is the Chase with Jace is always a show where I want to be fan oriented. So I want the fans to chime in, give their thoughts about LSU. Obviously, not a lot of positives about LSU last week, but we'll talk about it. And we'll talk about what was a disappointing, really underachieving season to this point for LSU. So make sure to, if you're watching us live on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, make sure just to follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Just give us a follow if you haven't already. We do a lot of great stuff, whether it's LSU, high school football, you name it. So that's what we're going to try to do. What we're going to talk about. It was a couple of days ago. I know we're trying to reflect on what's ahead for LSU and try to look at some of the positives. I'm always a half glass full type of guy, type of person. But, there weren't a lot of positives to talk about this week. And let's just say Brian Kelly is not the most popular guy in town right now. Anytime you lose to Vanderbilt, this is the first loss for LSU against Vanderbilt in 10 attempts. The last 10 tries. So you have to go back to 1990. You have to go back to 1990, the last time LSU lost to Vanderbilt. So that's going back a ways. That's going back to the Curly Hallman era. And you did not expect, Brian Kelly coming in when he got hired from Notre Dame. You did not expect him to be in comparisons of what was like the dark ages of LSU football back in Curly Hallman. So that's not what you really wanted to expect. But it was a game where Vanderbilt pretty much dominated the football game. You can go back and you can probably look at the numbers and everything. It was a one touchdown game, but really from start to finish, it really looked like that Vanderbilt pretty much controlled that football game. So Melissa Ward, and then this is what I want y'all to do. That's why we do the Chase with Jace. We want to have a great conversation. So if you have any questions, like Melissa Ward, we're going to definitely show that. But if you have any questions or just any comments just about LSU, we'll talk a little bit about the Vanderbilt game. We'll reflect on that. And obviously, if what's lies ahead for LSU. Obviously, we'll talk about what's coming up in the next couple of days. But what is really the future of LSU? What is really being expected at LSU? That is basically the question. We'll talk about, good evening. Do you see more players transferring? So, Melissa, this is kind of that point, right? You're kind of in that age of NIL. You're kind of in that age of transfer portal. You just saw the news. I know that Melissa is also referring to Ashton Stamps, that he's announced that he is transferring. And it was announced pretty much earlier last week, earlier this week, not even last week, that Ashton Stamps was going to redshirt. That was the goal, and that was kind of the plan for Brian Kelly, was to redshirt him. The whole thing with Ashton Stamps, it's just kind of confusing to me. Going into the year, I was there a lot during fall practice, and Ashton Stamps got first-team reps with the defense a lot of times. And we look at the first-team defense now, and you have Mansour Delane, who's playing that, playing himself like a first-round draft pick. He really is. And then you go look at him on one side. On the other side, you got P.J. Woodland. You got D.J. Pickett. So you're kind of looking at the future as well. And Ashton Stamps not starting this year was a little bit of a surprise, and not even starting, but playing, because you knew what the depth of this defense was, the secondary was. You knew that was I mean, it was going to be deep. It was going to be a strength of the team as you saw it throughout fall practice. You entered the season, the off season, as a weakness, but as you went through, it was going to be a strength for your football team, and you saw that early on. And really, the secondary has really been a consistent strength for this football team. That has been clear. This doesn't really hurt as much for this year. What Ashton Stamp's leaving, that will hurt in the future. That will hurt for next year. When you talk about the next couple of years, it will hurt in the future. So that's what that affects it. And when you're seeing the results going on right now, I mean, you'll see some more players transferring. This isn't going to be the only one. You might see one or two transfer during the season, but now it's going to be limited too because you only have one transfer portal window. You don't, I mean, one transfer portal window at the end of the year. So that is going to be a thing to watch out for, as you really have only one transfer portal window to really look at. So players are going to be really keeping that in mind as well. Like, do you stay? I think it's going to force more players to think, since there's not two windows anymore, there's only one window. So it's going to force players to really think that even more. And to answer your question, Melissa, you'll still see players transfer, but I don't think you'll see it at as much of a rate as it was in the past, just because you have that one window. So I appreciate Melissa Ward answering your question there. All right, Jennifer Alford of Lejeune, so AKA Mom. So I'm gonna give a shout out to Mom. She wants to come in with a question, so I like that. So let's see what we have here. What do you think is the next step for LSU after their loss against Vanderbilt? Well, to answer your question, Mom, there's only one way you can really go. I mean, there's two different ways you can actually go. One of the ways is when you're dealing with adversity. You either, when you're backed against a corner, you only got two options. You can continue to be backed against the corner, or do you fight out of that corner? That's basically your two options there. What does LSU do in this situation? There are a lot of high expectations going into the year. You spend a lot of money on this roster. Brian Kelly talked about how this was the most talented team that he's ever had at LSU. So there was a lot of hype going into the season about this year. And you're looking at before November hits, and you're already at two losses. And those two losses, one to Ole Miss on the road, which, okay, I mean, it is Ole Miss, so they're a pretty good football team. They're a ranked football team. You knew that was going to be tough. But also the other loss was against Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt's one of those teams that you should be better at. You should always be Vanderbilt. I know everybody's saying it's not, your grandfather's Vanderbilt. It's not even your dad's Vanderbilt. This is a really good Vanderbilt football team, and they have a really good team this year, and they're a ranked football team on the road. But you're still more talented than them. You invested a lot of money in this roster. So obviously, the season can turn even more sideways because you got two losses at this point, but you still haven't hit the toughest teams that you're about to play. You're about to play Texas A&M, which we'll go into this Saturday, and will play Alabama on the road. And then don't forget, you got Oklahoma at the end of the season. They're ranked. And then even though Arkansas is not ranked, they fire their coach, and they have Bobby Petrino as the head coach. Bobby Petrino is a really great play caller, and they're always going to give LSU the most that they can get. So they're going to give them their best punch. So the next step for LSU, you're back at home. You're playing against Texas A&M. This is an opportunity for LSU to, rise up to this situation, rise up to the occasion. Everybody talks about this whole offseason, how good of a team you really have. Everybody talks about that going into the year, how great of a team you really have. Now the question is, can you live up to that expectation at some point? LSU has underachieved the whole season. And everybody thought that Clemson win was going to be a great win to start the season. Clemson has really fallen off the map. So that win doesn't really look good. The only games you've won in the SEC were against Florida, which fired their coach, and South Carolina has a losing record right now. And the only two times you played ranked teams, you've lost, and you have not looked good. So this is an opportunity to show, okay, why all this money was invested in this team, why this team was projected so good to start the season. Show it. This is a golden opportunity for LSU to do that. So they have Texas A&M coming in your stadium as the number 3 ranked team in the country. This is an opportunity to show what you're made of, and this is a big point for Brian Kelly and for this LSU football program, because hey, you go and lose this football game, you're looking at 3 losses. All your dreams, your hopes going to the season of contending for a college football playoff spot, all those goals and aspirations you had going into the season are now done. So, and you can really rattle off a couple straight losses because, like you said, like I said earlier, you're going into your hardest part of your schedule. You got to go Texas. You got to play Texas A&M, who's ranked. You got bye. Then you got to go on the road to play Alabama, and then after that, you got the Arkansas, you got Western Kentucky, and you got Oklahoma after that. So that is a pretty tough stretch. But the next step for LSU, this is a big point, Mom. Basically, the next step for LSU after their loss, you got to show what you can do. You got to show what you're made of. And this is a big point. How will LSU handle adversity? Everything's not going your way. Even in the wins, it's been pretty choppy this year with LSU and their performance. This is a golden opportunity. Texas A&M comes in undefeated, number 3 in the country. How do you address that? How do you perform? Especially from a fan base that's not going to be happy. This is not going to be a happy fan base when you go back home in Tiger Stadium. So there's only 1 or 2 ways to really approach it. This is a golden opportunity. Showcase that this is an opportunity. Don't let the Vanderbilt loss affect you even more. That's the thing. Do not let that loss affect you even more on a grander scale. And that is what LSU needs to focus on. All right, Josh. So I got a little brother as well commenting in. So shout out to Josh. So let's see what Josh's question is. I'm pretty excited that Josh gets to ask a question right here. But give him a shout out too, little bro. All right, Josh. So Josh's question: how should the defense respond to Texas A&M after a rough performance last week? This is also an opportunity for the defense. I mean, we talk about so much about the LSU defense and how much that's been improved under Blake Baker, right? You go look at some of their games this year. When they played against offenses that have struggled this year, and you look at just like in the rankings where their offense ranks throughout the country, Florida, LSU looked great. They got the 5 interceptions, but you know that situation. They fired Billy Napier. You look at South Carolina. Everybody's at South Carolina is not happy with their offensive coordinator, Mike Shula, and how they've struggled this year. Clemson, you saw the losing streak they're on this year. The defense has played great when they have not played against great offenses with dual threat quarterbacks. Now, Ole Miss has had a top-ranked offense in the country. So has Vanderbilt. If you go look at the overall numbers, look at how they're ranked across the board, across college football, major college football along FBS. But when they played those teams, when they played Vanderbilt with Diego Pavia, who is a mobile quarterback, dual-threat quarterback, you played against Ole Miss with Trinidad Chambliss, who is a dual-threat quarterback and beat you with his legs. This LSU defense has struggled. Is this LSU defense really good? It is. But have they still solved the problems about containing mobile dual-threat quarterbacks? Well, Josh, I don't think that answer has been really answered yet. I think they still continue to struggle in that area. And guess what? You're going to have a couple other mobile quarterbacks you're going to have to play against if you play Baker. You're going to have to find a game plan here, right? So you got to play obviously Marcel Reed at Texas A&M. You got to play him on Saturday, and you're going to have to find a way to contain him because guess what? Remember what happened last year? Marcel Reed came in the second half when LSU was ahead, and when Marcel Reed came in that football game, he took over that football game. LSU could not stop him from running the football. You got to deal with him again. Then you got to deal with Ty Simpson, who can beat you with his legs. You got to deal with John Mateer, Oklahoma. He can beat you with his legs. Taylor Green from Arkansas, he can beat you with his legs. So Yeah, I mean, this is an opportunity for LSU's defense to show that they can defend the mobile quarterback because that's been their Achilles heel last year. They've taken some steps with Blake Baker. You don't see a lot of busted coverages with his team, and they do a pretty good job in run support and stopping the run. It's just been really containing the quarterback and the mobile quarterback. And a lot of times is LSU just playing undisciplined and getting out of their pass rush lanes and allowing a guy like Marcel Reed to take off and run, or Diego Pavia, Trinidad Chambliss to take off and run. And the thing about Chambliss and Diego Pavia is that they're pretty quick with their decision making. So if it's not there, they won't tuck in and run. So they're not going to hold back. You kind of see Cade Klubnik, in that football game, kind of, in between, whether indecisive, whether he's going to run or throw. These guys, Pavia and Chambliss, they show that, okay, it's not there, I'm going to just take off and run. So they're pretty decisive with their decision making. You go and watch them play. That's what makes them successful, because they are decisive with their playmaking. So if you're LSU and how this defense can bounce back, the biggest thing, Josh, you have to contain Marcel Reed. You got to keep him in the pocket. I know Texas A&M. I know with Colin Klein, their offensive coordinator, they're going to try to keep him in the pocket. That is what they want to do, even though that's what Colin Klein, they want him to stay in the pocket. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You got to be able to contain him, make sure he stays in the pocket. Don't let him beat you two-dimensionally. Make him become a pocket passer. I know Colin Klein is trying to get him to that point, but he's more dynamic, obviously, when he's running the football. So make sure you contain him from not making sure he doesn't break off for 50, 60-yard runs. That's kind of the biggest thing there. All right, do you think the Aggies will snap that streak of never getting a win in Tiger Stadium? I can tell, Mom, you've been doing your homework as well, because I'll see some other questions as well. So you're doing a really good job. I don't know if Josh is helping with the questions or not, but you are doing a great job with your research. Yeah, I mean, that's been kind of the thing with Texas A&M. It's been one of those games where they have not been one of those rivalries, right, where they haven't been successful in Tiger Stadium. It's been a long time. I don't know exactly the year, but it has been a losing streak for them. And also consider it's been a long time because they joined the SEC. I was like 2012. That was the Johnny Manziel year. And they just recently joined the SEC. I mean, they're in the SEC for 13, 14 years in the Southeastern Conference after being in the Big 12 Conference. But they have a great shot. Now, this is a team, and that's why there's a lot of eyes on Texas A&M, and that's why there's not a lot of faith for the Texas A&M football team. They've had a great season so far. They're number 3 in the country. They're undefeated. But if you look at the line, you look at the spread, Texas A&M is only a 2.5-point favorite. So why is that? Why is a Texas A&M football team that's undefeated, that's the number 3 team in the country, that's playing like one of the best teams in college football right now? They've shown they can win multiple different ways. Why is this team only a 2.5-point favorite over a team in LSU that struggled this year? And that's also, yeah, they joined in 2012. You're right. So that's right. That was Johnny Manziel's Heisman Trophy year. Yeah, why are they favored over LSU by 2.5 points? That's the question. Well, Texas A&M has been known for being Texas 8-4. That's kind of like the nickname with Texas A&M, because they've been known to have. You go back to Kevin Sumlin, when Kevin Sumlin was the head football coach at Texas A&M. To start off, it was 7-0, 8-0, and then they would falter down the stretch. Now, can this Texas A&M do that? Team do that? I'm not sure. This is an opportunity. Also, we talk about opportunities. I've said opportunities a lot on the show because this is what it is. That's what every SEC game is. And if A&M gets this win over LSU, I think I'm gonna start really buying into A&M because they're scary. Now they've always been a sleeping giant. That's what's made them, always a threat, because of obviously the money they have over there at Texas A&M and the resources they have at Texas A&M. That always makes them a sleeping giant. It's just a matter of getting the right coach in there. And Mike Elko is a coach that he scares me. Mike Elko is a really good football coach, and I thought that A&M made a great hire when getting Elko here. And I think he's the type of coach that can, help A&M get where they want to go. I'm pretty much that high on Mike Elko. So this is a good chance. This is a really great chance for Texas A&M to beat that winning streak, because right now you are the better team. You are the better team in LSU. If you're going to get LSU, get them while they're down, while they're licking their chops, while they're I guess moping after a disappointing loss against Vanderbilt. So if you're not going to do it here at home now in front of a disappointed and going to be disgruntled fan base, let's just say what it is at LSU. It's still going to be a sold out. I mean, it was already announced that game's going to be sold out. It's going to be a sold out game. So fans are going to show up. Now they're not they're not going to be happy. So you might hear some boos at the beginning of the football game, but you might hear some fire Brian Kelly chants. You might hear some of that stuff, right? Because obviously they're disappointed in the performance last week, but they're going to still show up and make this a loud, crazy environment, because it's a big opportunity. That's what Brian Kelly said a lot. Like, hey, let's move to the next page, right? Let's pretend that the Vanderbilt game never happened. Their whole mantra this year. What is their whole mantra this year? 1-0. 1-0. That's their whole mantra this year. So, and that is to go 1-0 every week. Now, have they done that? No, but they've said that a whole lot. So if that's the case, then LSU is going to try to put up their best effort because their backs are against the wall. So sometimes the most dangerous teams are the most desperate teams. Those are the most dangerous teams. And right now, LSU is dangerous because they're in desperate mode right now. I mean, technically, a lot of things down the line for LSU, as grim as it looks, and you might laugh at me for this statement, but I'm always a half glass full type of person. Still, their goals are still in front of them. I mean, 2 losses, I said at the beginning of the year, 2 losses will still get you in the college football playoff. Now, this is not exactly how you want those 2 losses to be. You want to win that Vanderbilt football game, maybe split Texas A&M and Alabama, and then that'll set you up pretty good the rest of the season to make the college football playoff. But obviously, it makes things more difficult when you lose the Vanderbilt. But you go and you beat Texas A&M, you have a bye to rest, you give Alabama their best shot, see what happens. You find a way to win that game. You have wins over top 5 ranked teams in Texas A&M and Alabama. That's how quickly the conversations around this football team change. That's how quickly it changes, because we're talking about a team that's, fire Brian Kelly, like this season's a total failure, and you get a couple wins, everybody's going to start forgetting about that. So it's all about perspective. This has been a weird year in college football. I mean, we've seen Florida State beat Alabama. Look how great Alabama's playing right now. And Florida State has still not won a conference game since early last year. And there's discussions about firing Mike Norvell. So you never know what each week is going to hold. Texas. Texas had to beat Texas had to beat Oklahoma, beat them really well by a good margin. And then next week, they barely beat Kentucky, who's the worst team in the SEC, in overtime, 13-10. So you just never know in the SEC. And that's why you still have hope, because with the NIL, with the transfer portal, if there's one positive thing about that, it makes the parity is insane. Now, Vanderbilt, who's always been kind of a bottom team in the SEC, they're not. And you can make an argument teams 1 through 10 in the SEC are really neck and neck. There's not really a dominant team. There's not a Nick Saban Alabama team on there. There's not a 2019 LSU team on there that's just head and shoulders above everybody else, Kirby Smart Georgia teams in the last couple of years. There's no dominant team in the SEC, and I think with that, it makes it more exciting. And I think you'll have teams like Missouri and Vanderbilt is a college football, a college game day destination this week, and that game has a chance to, whoever wins that, to be in the college football playoff. So you just never know. And Texas A&M, they have a great shot at defeating LSU. They are the favorite. I felt like they're the better team all year, but it is Tiger Stadium at night, and a lot of crazy things happen. So we'll see. What's the latest on injuries, especially with left tackle Tyree Adams and linebacker Whit Weeks? Unfortunately, not good ones. Whit Weeks, I believe he was still in a walking boot. So obviously not good news there. I think he's basically Brian Kelly said that Witt is still non-weight bearing. He is in a boot. We'll keep the boot on for another couple of days before we know that what he can do. He's been doing some additional treatments and he's feeling better, but we won't know about him until later in the week, which doesn't sound like it's a great sign. He was in a walking boot, obviously, for the Vanderbilt game, and that's tough. With Weeks, just because of how much of a energizer bunny. That's kind of what I call him, like the battery of this team. I mean, he gives them a charge. He gets them really electrified. And that's what Weeks does. He's kind of like the heart and soul of that defense. And you saw how much they missed with Weeks in the Vanderbilt game. Now they do have some good news because not only did they lose Weeks last week, but they lost Bernard Gooden, the defensive lineman, who you can make a case could be LSU's best defensive lineman. And Bernard Gooden, he was out, but he's been practicing with the team this week, which is great news. So they're just trying to bring him so slowly, and there's a good chance that he's going to play on Saturday. You need him back in the lineup, and you saw how much the game plan was affected without those two guys in the lineup. Now it's looking pretty grim for Whit Weeks, which is obviously really tough. And I believe it's looking pretty grim for Tyree Adams. So I believe Tyree Adams is not going to play. And that is those two positions, obviously with Whit Weeks, just because he's, you can say probably your best player. That's an important loss. And Tyree Adams is also an important loss. So it's an ankle sprain for Tyree Adams. And it looks like that Tyree Adams is going to be out. And I know everybody's talking about the offensive line and the struggles there on the offensive line, but Tyree Adams has proved to be one of your best guys, and he's been one of your most, I feel like more of your most reliable guys out there left tackle. I feel like him and Braylon Moore have probably been your best two linemen this year. And I think it shows how much you really missed him. You put DJ Chester. Now I think the question comes here when this question is being brought up about Tyree Adams is who's the backup going to be. LSU, it looks like Brian Gelly's sticking to his guns. He looks like he wants DJ Chester out there at left tackle. DJ Chester, if you remember, he was your starting center last year. And we're talking about that offensive line. That was an experienced offensive line. The only new guy last year was DJ Chester, and he started for you at center. Now he's not starting, and you have to kind of put him in this six-man in the rotation role. So what's been different this year is you put him as a sixth guy, but in the Ole Miss game, when somebody got hurt, Carius Kern was the next guy that came in. And a lot of fans, a lot of people really like what Carius Kern brought. He's a five-star, highly recruited freshman coming in, and he did really well in the Ole Miss game. And so people are thinking, okay, with his offensive line struggling, he should be one of your best five guys out there. Brian Kelly says, he keeps on saying that they're going to play the best five guys out there. But it's been clear to me that Carius Kern is one of their best five guys, but he hasn't played. Now, Brian Kelly was asked about it this week about which guy he was going to put in the starting lineup with Tyree Adams being out left tackle, because left tackle, that's your blind side. That is a pretty important position for Garrett Nussmeier when he's back there throwing the football, especially when he hasn't been obviously healthy this year. So what do you do there? Do you go with the more experienced guy, or do you go more with the more talented guy, the guy that's younger, doesn't have as much playing time, but with more upside? If I'm LSU, I'm rolling with Carius Kern. The reason why I'm rolling with Carius Kern is because he has shown that physically he can match up with the best of them. He's a 5-star. He's got the top end talent, and he's going to go 100% full out. You're going to make mistakes. That's what it's going to be. But you've shown, if you're Brian Kelly, that you can do this before. You put in Will Campbell left tackle. You put in Emory Jones at right tackle. You put those two guys at tackle, and you roll with them throughout the rest of the season. Brian Kelly even compared Karius Kern to Emory Jones. So, and you saw what he did in his freshman year. He made some mistakes, but man, he was one of your best 5 out there. And I think that's what you're going to have to do. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for Karius Kern to go in there and, learn some lessons along the way. It's not going to be perfect. He's going to make mistakes. He's a freshman. You're going to have maybe somebody to help him out there at left tackle. But the talent's there. And if you are right about putting your best 5 guys out there, you put him out there. You see what he does, and you see how he holds up. And I know there's a saying goes about any experience is good experience, but if you're struggling this much and the offensive line has struggled this much, and you probably saw Tyree Adams get pancaked on his rear end at left tackle, is experience really that good experience? To me, if it's bad experience, it's bad experience, and it's not really good experience. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm LSU, I'm not sure they're going to do that or not. It looks like Brian Kelly, if I have to guess what they're going to do, they're probably going to roll out DJ Chester in for Tyree Adams at left tackle, and they're probably going to put in Karius Kern at the left tackle as well. If I had to guess what they're doing, that's probably, I guess, what they're doing. But if I'm LSU, I would roll with Karius Kern. I want to see what you got to lose there. Pull him out there at left tackle and see what he does. Or Weston Davis has not been that much better either at right tackle. Do you put DJ Chester at tackle because Weston Davis has struggled a whole lot? Do you put him at left tackle? I don't know. But that's always been a weak link. And Tyree Adams might be one of your most valuable players because he has proven to be a pretty good tackle on the left side. What are your feelings on junior cornerback Ashton Stamps leaving the team there in the transfer portal? I think Miss Melissa asked that question earlier, but I'll pretty much repeat that again. I think it doesn't really hurt you this year because you're so deep in the secondary. Mansour Delane, number 4, he's been one of LSU players, the best players this year, and he's looking like he's going to play into a pretty high draft pick. So, yeah, that's obviously an option there for Mansour Delane. And you look on the other side, DJ Pickett, and you look at PJ Woodland. Those have all been great options there for LSU at the cornerback position. But next year, you're probably going to need Ashton Stamps, which I'm actually surprised we haven't seen him play more because, remember, he's been starting for you the previous 2 years at cornerback. He's been pretty solid, at cornerback. He's been your cornerback 1 the last couple of years. And now all of a sudden he's not even playing. The goal for Brian Kelly was to redshirt him and to keep him from next year. And that was kind of the case with Jordan Gilbert, Stamps, and some of the other guys. But that's a blow. If you're looking at next year, looking ahead, I don't think it's going to really affect you this year. But because you lose Mansour Delane, you lose some guys there. Now you still have, you should have Woodland back. You should have DJ Pickett. It was like DJ Pickett's going to be their cornerback 1 next year. But it is going to really, really hurt your team for next year. When we're looking at next year's team, that is a big loss for LSU because it comes to show you how much of a strength the cornerback room has been for you. It's probably been one of your most consistent position groups this year. We talk about the cornerback room this year and how that group has really emerged and has really improved since Corey Raymond has really come back and taken over that position group. So that is a big loss for LSU. I was really shocked when I heard that news about Stamps, but he wasn't playing this year. It was kind of a question mark why he wasn't playing this year because he started for you. And when I was out there at fall camp, he was taking first-team reps for a lot of fall camp and looked good in fall camp. That's still kind of a mystery to me what happened exactly there with Ashton Stamps for him not to be seeing the field and all of a sudden you're transferring out. So that is a little bit of a mystery to me when it comes to Ashton Stamps. Is there any LSU player, in your opinion, that has really surprised you from the beginning of the season? Well, there's been some bright spots this year. We talk about LSU. Um, a lot of good. We're talking about the safeties. I think that I came away not knowing how really good the safeties are, because that was really a question mark going the season. Now you really addressed that through the transfer portal with the safety position. You got proven players, but I didn't really think how those defensive back options would be this good at LSU. We talk about Mansour Delane. I didn't realize how good he was going to be at cornerback. I knew he was going to be good, and I think that was going to be an upgrade for what LSU has had, but I didn't think that he would be like probably Jim Thorpe level, All-American level type of cornerback for LSU this year. He's been fantastic. AJ Halsey has not disappointed. Tamarcus Cooley has been pretty rangy in coverage, and those guys have really been, I wouldn't say they've been a surprise. I thought they would be good, but I didn't think they would be this good this year for LSU. When we talk about as well defensively, overall, their transfer portal additions, Bernard Gooden has been a guy we talked about a whole lot in fall camp, and you can tell how much they miss Bernard Gooden in the Vanderbilt game. You can tell how much they missed him, and that was a big loss for LSU not to have him available against Vanderbilt. Grant Chadwick, I would say the punter. We kind of joke about LSU has been kind of that year where we're talking about the punter, but I wasn't really sold on Grant Chadwick going into the season. But Grant Chadwick's playing like one of your best punters in college football. That has been a really good addition for the transfer portal, and has really helped this LSU defense. I think he was a big aspect in that Florida win, in that 20-10 Florida win. So he's been a great addition. The special teams has improved a whole lot. I know that was definitely a bigaboo. We talk about Brian Kelly, and when he first got here, that the special teams really cost LSU in some games. But that's really been an obviously improved area. And I think a lot of the credit goes to, obviously with Grant Chadwick coming in and becoming that reliable punter for LSU. Offensively, there are some bright spots when we talk about last week and the last couple of weeks. Trey'Dez Green, which it doesn't really come to me as a big surprise. I thought Trey'Dez Green was going to be the breakout star for LSU this year. This was a guy I actually called his games when he was at East Feliciana in high school, and his first varsity game. We're like, okay, who is this guy that's playing against Episcopal, right? 6'7" receiver, hasn't played varsity football, and he comes in and they throw it up to him 4 times, catches 4 touchdowns, and you just kind of knew what kind of player Trey'Dez Green was going to be then. A guy at 6'7" that played LSU basketball. He got a scholarship to play LSU basketball, and now is focusing on football. There's not a lot of guys out there that are 6'7", that's a red zone target like he is, that can move like he can after the catch. And there's been a lot of things you can say about Joe Sloan and how he shouldn't be calling plays, and he's not a good offensive coordinator. And a lot of it, yeah, rightfully so. A lot of responsibilities on him when talking about calling the plays. But if there's one good thing I have to say about it, it's been how he's been able to line up Trey'Dez Green and set him up for some success. Obviously, besides that, I can't really say anything much about Joe Sloan offensively and his play calling this year. But Trey'Dez Green has been a really good, I wouldn't say surprise, but he's definitely been a breakout star for LSU and what to expect this year. The running back position, you see some flashes with Harlem Berry, and I hope that LSU gets him the football a lot more as we go across through the second half of the season. He's definitely by far your most dynamic runner, and it's just more about, and you saw him able to really blow a guy off in pass protection, and he did a great job with a great pass block to really get him on the ground. But he's a guy that needs more carries. You need to get him the football more times. You need to find a way to get him the football. You need to find a way to get him the football. And that's really the key. You got to get him the football, got to get him the field in open space because that's been a struggle. Your running game has been a struggle this year. So those things, I mean, Garrett Nussmeier's really struggled this year, and I did not see that one coming because you saw what quarterbacks have done in their second year. You've seen what Jaden Daniels did in the second year. You saw what Joe Burrow did in the second year, and keep in mind that Garrett Nussmeier had better numbers than those two quarterbacks in their first year. But you haven't seen the step up in the second year. You kind of seen a little bit of a regression there with Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, a lot of it had to deal with injuries, a banged up offensive line. It's just tough things to really talk about there. We talk about Garrett Nussmeier, but that's been a surprise. You would think you'd see more production from him, from a fifth-year guy, a second-year quarterback, trying to elevate his draft stock as well. You just haven't seen that. And hopefully I'm wrong the rest of the way. Hopefully that he can show in the next couple of games with some big game opportunities down the road that he can show that he can be that guy and the guy everybody thought he was going into the season. So that's what I'm going to say there. But appreciate the questions, guys. If y'all have any more questions, feel free to chime in. I'll be here for another 20 minutes, right till 6 o'clock. But we'll have a game preview on our website at gridironfootballusa.com. So make sure to check that out. We'll have a game preview about this game. I'll go into my thoughts about the game this week against Texas A&M. And my game preview, my predictions, all that about the game itself. But there's some things obviously to talk about in the Vanderbilt game. Things I like, things I didn't like. Obviously, number one, things I did not like. Obviously, the red zone offense. The red zone offense was terrible. I mean, it was really bad. And this has been trending in that direction really the whole season. You've seen how LSU has struggled to punch the ball in when they got in the red zone. Those mistakes, you kind of overlook them in a win, but those mistakes will bite you in a loss. And that's what happened with the red zone offense. You keep in mind the South Carolina game. That South Carolina game, LSU should have won that game. It was same score, right? 20-10, like the Florida game. But LSU should have won that game by 20, by double that at least. But here's what you did. You fumbled when you were trying to punch it in from the 1 yard line. Juwan Johnson, running back, I try to make that transition from playing high school quarterback to playing running back. You got to know when to stretch the football there. You got to protect the football when you're inside the 5. He fumbles the football. That was a mistake. You could have been up 10-0, and it was a 14-point swing because you could have been up 10-0. Then now you're looking at the scoreboard, you're down 7-3. That was a 14-point swing. Garrett Nussmeier. He threw in the interception in the red zone. LSU was moving the football. LSU was moving the football in the South Carolina game, and they really beat themselves. And obviously the sequence near the goal line at the end, Garrett Nussmeier fumbled the football a couple of times. So those were mistakes in the South Carolina game. Now you fast forward to the Vanderbilt football game in the goal line. LSU was hanging around. I mean, they were right there. And they had a chance to punch the football. They had a 52-yard run from Caden Durham that set themselves inside the 1 yard line, and you punch this football in for a touchdown, you're down by 3 points, and who knows what the game looks like. If you score, you get some momentum, you score a touchdown, but you call a timeout. You get stuff on first down, and you call a timeout on second down. After a timeout, you still don't have enough guys on the field. You only have 10 players on the field, and it was a good play concept. I mean, you got your receiver Xavier Thomas in the end zone for a touchdown, but you had a legal form. I think he had a false start. A false start was called. That sets you back up, and then that pretty much killed the whole drive. That killed the whole momentum of that drive, and you kick a field goal. And I think at that point, really killed the whole momentum of the football game for LSU. And because you had first and goal at the 1 yard line, and you sell for a field goal to keep it within a touchdown game. That whole game was choppy. And I think that whole game, if you look at that Vanderbilt game and say, in one game, show me what LSU football seasons looked like. And that's a perfect example. Choppy. I think there's one word to talk about LSU this year has been choppy. It hasn't been in sync. It hasn't been complimentary. That's what Brian Kelly has said a whole lot throughout the year, playing complimentary football. I know people get tired of him saying that, but he's true. You got to play complimentary football. Your defense feeds off your offense. Offense feeds off your defense. Unfortunately, LSU, you just can't get it right in terms of playing complimentary football. Look at the Jaden Daniels year. Jaden Daniels went off, had a Heisman Trophy winner, Heisman Trophy year. Their offense was one of the most elite in the country. What cost them a national championship in 2023 was how bad the defense was. all you needed was to get – you didn't have to be good on defense. You just had to be, decent enough to get 2 stops in a football game. When your offense is scoring every time, they know they got to score every time they touch the football to have a chance to win. Now you're looking at this year, the start of the season, your defense is really great, but your offense hasn't shown it. And this was a microcosm of what the Brian Kelly era has been, the Vanderbilt game. It's been a great example of what this era has been for LSU. Because early in the football game, the offense is finally getting the rhythm. The offense is finally getting it together, right? Trey'Dez Green scores a touchdown. You're feeling good about yourself. You had Garrett Nussmeier hit Xavier Thomas. I know it was kind of a flukish play, but he scored for a 61-yard touchdown. You're feeling good about your offense. You're moving the football. And defense has been something you've been relying on all year long, but the defense this time is struggling. They can't contain Diego Pavia. They can't contain him in the pocket. He's scrambling around, making plays like Johnny Manziel. That's what he kind of reminds me of. But you can't contain him. And you can't contain him in the pocket. He's beating you running the football. There are times where, I thought Harold Perkins played his worst game at LSU in that Vanderbilt game. He did a terrible job of containing him, playing his assignment, overrunning plays. And I think what LSU has struggled, and a big reason, in my opinion, why LSU has struggled against mobile quarterbacks is because Blake Baker's scheme is so aggressive. If you get too aggressive, that's how mobile quarterbacks take advantage of it. When they get too aggressive, they're outside their pass rush lanes. And that allows a quarterback that's athletic, like Diego Pavia, just take off and run because everybody's not in contain and everybody is losing contain and allowing Pavia to take off and run the football. That's a big thing there. But the defense struggled. And then finally, when you're down by a touchdown, it's 31-24, your defense gets back-to-back stops. Okay, time for your defense has made a couple stops. Time for your offense, who's been moving the ball all game long, to finally step up and score a touchdown, tie the football game. Only problem was you didn't. You didn't do that. You went 3 and out. You had to punt the football a couple of times. You had a 4th down. You could have gone for it, and you decided to punt the football away. Couldn't get that final stop. So you're playing catch-up. You're playing uphill all game long. And Vanderbilt controlled that football game from start to finish. And is there a game that game against Vanderbilt, to me, defines the Brian Kelly era? You've had moments. You've had flashes. You had flashes where the offense is doing well and the defense is not doing well. And then vice versa. You switched it around. Defense is not doing well. Offense is doing well. If that Vanderbilt game was played in 2023 with the defense you had on Saturday, and that's not – this is LSU's worst defensive performance by far of the year. If you had that defensive performance a lot in 2023, LSU would have won the game because that's all Jaden Daniels, that's all the offense needed was just 2 stops. And they would have found a way to win that football game. But your offense needed to find a way to score a touchdown. So, both were at fault. I mean, the offense needed to find a way to score a touchdown late in the football game. You couldn't do it. Defense, while the offense was getting rolling early in that football game, had a lead. You keep on giving up the lead to Vanderbilt. So you got to play complementary football. Score a touchdown, score a field goal, get a stop. Or if your defense forces a turnover, all right, LSU, you got to punch this one in. You got to get a touchdown off of this turnover. So complementary football, that is what is going to happen in order for Texas A&M or for LSU to beat Texas A&M. As much as this week sucked, and this week has sucked, if you're an LSU football fan, you still have to remain pretty optimistic coming up for this week, because this is an opportunity for LSU, and we talked about it a lot throughout the show. What does LSU do? That's what I want to see on Saturday. Has his LSU team given up on their coach yet? Have they given up on Brian Kelly? You're going to see that. That question is going to be answered on Saturday, because if they're going all out, playing really hard, then they're showing you that they haven't given up on the season yet. And they still have 2 losses. They're still ranked. They're 20th in the country. If you go and win out, as crazy as that might sound, after losing to Vanderbilt, if you win out, you are in the college football playoff, because 2 losses get you in there. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No, not the way they've been playing. But you still, with the money that's invested in this football program, the money is invested in-house, that you have the potential of doing that. You haven't shown nearly what you're capable of this year, because you haven't shown it at all this year. But it is there. That's why you're ranked high preseason. It is there. You just have to find. What is your prediction for Saturday? Oh man. So I could tease you, Mom, and say, well, you have to read my article at gridironfootballusa.com to find out about that. And that actually, that article will be posted probably tomorrow, and you'll be able to find the score prediction there. But I'm going to say some keys to the game here, because I'm going to say my prediction for the article on the website. But my keys to the game here for LSU, you got to play complementary football. You got to do that, because Texas A&M is really good. And they've shown to play complementary football this year. There were times when their defense was struggling. Guess what? Marcel Reed and Texas A&M's offense has stepped up and they have won some shootouts. Now, there were some times where the offense didn't get it together, like the Mississippi State game, and the defense took over. And they played complementary football. And you got to do that against Texas A&M. When there's any opportunities, turn the ball over. You got to take advantage. You got to cash in on touchdowns. Like, in order to beat a great football team, and that's what Texas A&M has shown through the first couple of games, that they're the only undefeated SEC team in the league. You got to be able to take advantage of opportunities. So turnovers, field position, mistakes from Texas A&M. We know how much the crowd can affect a visiting team. We saw the South Carolina game. The reason why LSU was able, one of the reasons LSU was able to win that football game against South Carolina was the fans. The fans was the reason why was a big reason why LSU won that football game. Because every time South Carolina looked like they were driving, looked like they were in a little bit of a rhythm, false start because of the crowd. The LSU crowd got into the football game. So Tiger Stadium needs to be at its absolute best. Make it really tough, and I think they will, because they know what this looms ahead for LSU. Top 3 team coming in, Texas A&M, and I don't think LSU and LSU fans want anything better than to ruin Texas A&M season. They or help start doing that. I think that's what LSU wants to do, and I think that's what the fans want to do. But I mean, you saw the players what they said in post game. They still believe they have a chance, and mathematically, it's slim, but they do. You win out and see what happens, but Yeah, you got to play complimentary football. You got to play clean football. By far, you got to play your best game of the year. You can't let Marcel Reed's legs beat you defensively. You have to make sure to keep him in the pocket and don't let him beat you running the ball like he did, like he showed you last year. That has to be evident. If he beats you throwing for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, give him a round of applause, give him a standing ovation. He did it. He beat us with his arm this year. And just take it like it is. But do not let him beat you for the second year in a row running the football at you. And then offensively, you gotta be better first and second down. That has been a big reason. Everybody's complaining about the Joe Sloan play calling, and I'm kind of on that train. He has been underwhelming, to say the least, calling plays this year. But you have to be better when first and second down. You have to be more creative. You have to be able to dial stuff up down the field. There's been a lot of screens, 3-4 RPOs, 3-4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. You have to be able to attack deep. You have to attack the middle of the defense. I feel like LSU, when they've attacked the middle of the defense, they've been pretty successful. They just don't do it enough. But get Kyle Parker in the slot. Get Aaron Anderson in the slot. Find ways. I do like how they design plays for Trey'Dez Green. Get that going if you're Joe Sloan. So be creative in the running game. The running game has not really been for you this year. Now you've got LSU has shown some sparks, right? Some long runs this year. Just have to be able to cash them in. And then just when you're at first and goal at the 1-yard line, pound it in. I mean, LSU must have a 280-pound defensive lineman somewhere. Jack Pyburn. You can put Bo Bordelon, put him in at fullback. Give him the football. Put an extra offensive lineman in there. Do the whole Fritz Perry thing. Like being able to run the football, insert your will. That's such a momentum thing for a team. When you can run the football, you can play physical. Just go out and play 100%, right? The reason why Vanderbilt, a big reason why Vanderbilt won that football game on Saturday, they were the more physical football team than LSU was. Simple as that. They're the more physical team. They beat up LSU. And you go back, Les Miles, you go back to Nick Saban, what they were. They were the more physical team. Like, you might win the football game. You might beat LSU, but I guarantee it, you're going to get a lot of bruises the next day. You're going to get beat up. You're going to have to earn it. You're going to have to win in a dogfight. You got to be the more physical team, and that is something where LSU's not as feared as much anymore. Be the hammer, like what Les Miles would say, right? Be the hammer, not the nail, right? LSU, show what you can be. And that is back to old LSU football. And they haven't really shown that under Brian Kelly. They have struggled to run the football, and they've struggled until this year, really, defensively. And I never thought those would be the struggles with LSU after watching LSU for over 20 years and play football. So did not think that would be the case when LSU would not be the more physical football team. If you told me going this year that LSU, talking about LSU, Leonard Fournette, Kevin Falk, Kenny, go back and look at all the great running backs that LSU has had, and you can't run the football. That is a no-no. You have to be able to run the football at LSU, and they have shown that they can't run the football this year. And you have to be the more physical football team. Beat Texas A&M in the mouth. Punch them in the mouth. If your defense gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, I don't hate it, because that means your team's fired up. So I want to see that energy. I want to see that boost, that energy boost from the sidelines from LSU. Tell Texas A&M that you're going in a dogfight for 60 minutes. And I just want to see fight. I want to see fight in this LSU football team. I want to still see them compete. That's what I want this team to do. Still compete. Still have everything on the line. That is what I want LSU to do on Saturday against Texas A&M. Show that you're a prideful football team. Show that you're not caving into the season, that you're not giving up on the season. The worst thing that you can do as a player is let one loss affect another, right? One play affect another. Move on to the next play. Play it all out. Go all out. Leave it all on the football field, and look at the scoreboard at the end of the football game to see what happens. You win this football game. Guess what? The mood changes a little bit differently because now you're talking about losing to Vanderbilt. You got to pay the buyout for Brian Kelly. What we're going to do is a disaster. To beating Texas A&M, being a top 3 team, and then having to bye with 2 losses, and then you have what? You have another 4 games left on your schedule, and it's a 4-game race after that. You're still in it. So, and that's what one LSU fans want, to still be in the race. And if you do that against Texas A&M, you beat Texas A&M, technically you're still in the race. So we'll see what happens on Saturday against Texas A&M. We'll have a game preview with a score prediction on there. More about this game will be on our website, gridironfootballusa.com. I appreciate everybody that's tuned in today on our Facebook Live chat. We'll do this every single Wednesday. My mistake. Every single Wednesday. On Friday, what we'll do, since this actually worked out pretty good, we got YouTube going, we got X going. So make sure to like us. Make sure to share this video out. And then we'll be available on Facebook, YouTube, and X on Friday night, 10:30. So Louisiana high school football fans, will do a scoreboard show for week 8. It's a pretty cool show. We got a lot of high school coaches that come in after the wins and talk about their wins. So we're pretty excited about that. So 10:30 on Friday night after all the games have been recapped. And then on YouTube, we'll actually post our Going Bowling show. And that's when myself, Andy, Bryson, Marcus Randall, the Bluegrass Miracle quarterback at LSU, we talk about the Gridiron Football All-American Bowl game, and we've got a lot of commitments already on our website posted. So make sure you go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. I really appreciate everybody that's tuned in and has left comments throughout the show. And I appreciate all of y'all as well and that's why we'll make it a fan show. We want to make it sure that we interact with the fans and make sure they get their input in. But it was a great show, guys. Hopefully it's a great outing for LSU. Let's see if they can bounce back this Saturday against Texas A&M. Because if they can do that, I think a lot of the negative talk this week can put to rest if they can do that and beat the Aggies. So thanks, guys. Make sure to check us next time on The Chase with Jace. We'll see you all next time on another episode. Have yourself a good one.